I did not expect to have episode 2 drop so quickly, but keeping tabs on the news can help catch things that pop up. So here we go again. What can you say to someone who is not willing to listen and therefore will never learn? The answer is pretty much nothing. And all you can do is hold these people up as an example to others who will listen. This example is all the more stark when the example thinks that they are not doing anything wrong. One guy compared my child to a disease. What it's like online dating as a single mother. In many ways, I was chuffed to be doing the whole mum thing solo. I could give my war-torn vagina as much of a rest as I wanted. I could starfish on my own bed during the 0.0008 hours sleep I was getting, etc. But the time came when I was ready to get back on the horse. Like Carrie Bradshaw, if Carrie got knocked up, abandoned, and moved back in with her parents in the home counties. I'm sorry, I thought she was doing things solo. I guess we've got a different idea of solo. Sequel, anyone? I surmised that Tinder was for the hot and childless, of which I consider myself neither, so decided to sign up to Match.com, which is basically where your divorced auntie would go to pool. So already she's boxing herself in. A landscape of men in their 50s with usernames like Nice Guy Hank or Dale 1956 and lots of smileys. Match.com gives you a more thorough dating CV than any app ever did, and includes a section on children. Now I was in the already have bracket rather than never or someday. I quickly discovered that life isn't fruitful on Match.com for the already have bracket, and messages dwindling, I naively decided to leave it blank. Not lying so much as careful truth editing. Yes, because denying your child is always the sign of a good mother. I finally received a message from a man who was under 50 and looked sort of acceptable. I definitely wouldn't have thought so pre-baby, but I decided I was different now and standards had to be lowered accordingly. Don't worry, I definitely don't think so now. This was more likely more of that temporary post-baby insanity. Whoa, I would not like to get in between this woman and her ego. When standards are set sky high, disappointment is guaranteed. I asked my hairdresser to make me look more like a mum around this time. I also grew my hair and dyed it a more natural blonde colour, which was probably the first request in hairdressing history, to look more like a mum. So you did not want to admit you had a child, but you wanted to look like a mum. Mixed signals much? So with my self-esteem hitting an all-time low, I decided to go on a date with a primary school teacher who looked a bit like Duncan from Blue. We'd been messaging for about a week with no mention of significant tiny others when he asked if I'd like to meet for a drink. First dates with people you met on the internet serve as a formality to ensure the person isn't actually a nymphomaniac, pervert, megalomaniac, narcissist, married man, catfish. You forgot liar. Then, all being well, you can go for dinner for date 2. To prepare myself, I had a WKD in the bath at home getting ready, just to take the edge off. Of course, every guy likes to deal with a drunk woman on her first date. First dates unhinge everyone. Well, it is of course a truly universally acknowledged that first dates unhinge even the most together of people who didn't give birth 4 months previous. That sentence is terrible. I felt the most nervous I think I've ever felt about anything, including childbirth. So, with my going out frock and tiny clutch bag filled with, nothing in my hand, I hit the pavement and walked into town for my first date in a long time. Since one became two. First things first, he looked a lot less like Duncan from Blue in real life. Maybe Duncan from Blue if you saw him through a window smeared with Vaseline. He was definitely shorter than his profile had led me to believe. Why is this always a thing? And had styled his hair into a spiky quiff. Well, you'd come dressed as a mum. But there I was, doing my very best to charm him, excel in all the necessary eyelash fluttering, laughing at his average jokes, saying whoa to his stories about life in the primary school fast lane. Tell me something crazy about you, he asked. Oh, I don't know. Sometimes when I'm hungover, I watch old Newsnight episodes to see what haircuts politicians had in the 1980s. You were pandering to him, hiding yourself, and gave BS answers when he tried to get to know you better. He is someone who owes you nothing, but from your own admission has a stable job and probably has his own accommodation. From an outsider's point of view, I am less likely to hold him accountable for the bad date. Great, I just wanted to feel like I was fanciable. Looking back, I think I just wanted him to like me, to validate that I was still dateable, still fanciable, and that I could still do the whole man thing. In any case, I think my inane answer must have temporarily lowered my guard, because that, my friends, is when the S-bomb went off. He asked me who I was living with, to which I replied, well, I'm back with my parents at the moment, because I had a little boy not so long ago. As in a baby? He said. Yes, I suppose you could call him one of those. He's 4 months old. The silence felt like it was pushing against me. I had been pregnant a long time, so my time off the dating scene felt way longer than it probably seemed to this guy. I decided to just grin and hope he wanted to have sex with me enough to just brush over it for now. Do you not think you should have mentioned that in your profile? He finally responded. To which the me of now says, sorry hon, I don't really. No. Because I do not give a damn about him. I just want the D. Okay, that might be a bit too flippant, but if she's not willing to be honest about herself, why should she expect to get an honest guy? If you think this woman sounds entitled, I want you to give this video a thumbs up right now. I do feel sorry for this guy though. Is it a problem? The me of then said. I suppose you are right. Sorry, I should have mentioned it. Is it a problem? It seemed it was a problem. He took a sharp intake of breath, actually clicked his knuckles, let out a sad sigh and said, I suppose not. It's not so much of a problem. I mean, we've all got skeletons in our closet. Take me, for example. I've got Crohn's disease. Right there, in the middle of the almost nice gastro pub, he compared my son to living with a chronic illness. Now only I and I alone am allowed to make such reductive viewpoints of parenting. I wish I could say now that I see where he was coming from, but I never will. Unbelievably, thinking I would now be rendered permanently hideous to all men. Yes, it is a cruel truth. The responsibility of having a child does put off a lot of partners, especially when there are quite a number of unattached people with no kids. I was still keen to go out with sort of Duncan from Blue again, and being so remarkably better looking than him, I expected him to feel the same. Although we only had one drink, he promised to give me a text. Did he say goodbye or see you later? I was too drunk to care. Sounds to me like a perfect first date. The morning after, the next day, I was excited to receive a text. Until I read it. Hi Amy, thanks for a good evening. You are obviously a great girl, but I think we're looking for different things. Sorry. Oh good, he actually got away. Ideally, sorry shouldn't be included in a post-date text message. Sorry suggests you haven't exactly aced that round. I wished I'd drunk his on-the-house limoncello. I had another WKD in the bath that night to drown my sorrows. Being rejected by a man with funny ears after he'd compared my child to a debilitating illness wasn't ideal for my already rock-bottom self-confidence. How could anyone reject a goddess like this? How dare they? But it taught me one thing. Paying for Match.com didn't necessarily produce a match worth paying for. And so I went back to what I knew. I cut and bleached my hair and reactivated Tinder. Oh, so she was on Tinder before. Well, I'm glad this woman removed herself from a dating scene where people are more serious searching for a partner. I fear she's returned to a position where she could do infinitely more damage. Tinder is purely a meat market, and this woman will most likely end up quickly with another unwanted child. The sad part of this article is that nowhere here do I see her taking any responsibility for her part in anything. It is always somebody else's fault. So it seems like a fitting point to say, just remember, your sole purpose in life is to serve as a warning to others.